normally only eat each other when food is scarce or when overcrowded. But the carcasses floating around in the river are just too tempting a meal. They are feasting on their own dead.
These things have been here for 240 million years, and we have, in 2.5 years, almost wiped them out in this river system. Yeah, it saddens me. It absolutely saddens me to see.
Nile crocodiles have existed for over 200 million years. Up to 20 feet long and weighing the same as a small car, they're virtually indestructible, attacking almost anything that crosses their path. If these beasts are dying, something has gone catastrophically wrong. Park authorities immediately launch an investigation. They're worried that more crocs may have died.
Yeah, looks a big one.
The team's worst fears are soon confirmed. 30 more corpses are discovered along the river.
That one in the gill net or not? Was that?
Dani Pina heads up the inquiry.
In one spot there was like just 15 carcasses stacked up. Some of them obviously dead for a couple of weeks.
We were very startled because crocodiles are not that sort of species that you expect to die in a hurry.
Even more shocking is where the crocodiles have died. This untouched gorge is one of the largest crocodile breeding grounds in the world. Over 1,000 crocs live here. Sandbanks are the perfect place for cold-blooded crocs to bask in the sun and lay their eggs. Around the world, Nile crocodiles had been hunted close to extinction. However, this gorge is a crocodile paradise.
It was impossible to comprehend that in this area of the park that is so far removed from human impact that the crocodiles could be suffering this terrible fate.
This one is dead already, here on the right, isn't it?
Yeah, this one here is dead. That big one is still alive.
If they start dying, what are next? Then it's basically us.
Investigators must act fast to find out what's killing Kruger's crocodiles. They turn to a past event for clues. Just 3 years ago, 52 animals were found dead in the park. Lions, cheetah, zebra, and white rhino were all victims in a mass die-off. They'd all been poisoned by blue-green algae. Traces of algae are found in most water bodies, but under the right conditions, it can rapidly multiply to produce large algal blooms. These blooms produce high levels of toxins that, if consumed, can be fatal. Could algae be poisoning crocodiles in the gorge? Danny Govinder, Kruger Park's disease ecologist, isn't convinced.
One thing that put us off a little bit was that we had large amounts of crocodiles, and we had a whole lot of species dying, but crocodiles were never featured.
The animals that died were all species that drink from the surface of the water, exactly where algae rises to photosynthesize. Crocodiles, however, do not.
Crocodiles are not consuming, they're not drinking a large amount of the watery habitat that they live in.
Hoeveel Hoeveel is ultrasound mee gekregen?
Not once did we find a dead croc. So in my head, in any case, blue-ring algae was not something that I was seriously worried about.
With algae discounted, Danny Govender and her team are scrambled to the gorge to carry out post-mortems. If a cause of death is not found fast, there will be little hope of saving the rest of Kruger's crocodiles. An external examination only deepens the mystery. There are no signs of injury, and the corpses are unusually fat.
When we first cut open these crocodiles, we noticed this orange, really hard, really sort of almost rubbery, like shoe rubber, hard fat. When you opened further into the abdomen, the fat there was equally affected. The fat in the tail was equally affected. The fat between the organs was so affected that you couldn't move any organs freely.
The evidence points to a disease called pansteatitis. More well known in domestic cats, it's caused by eating too much rancid fat, combined with a lack of vitamin E. Harmful toxins are released into the body, hardening a victim's body fat. If afflicted, a croc's tail will turn rubbery.
Where you've got a crocodile with pansteatitis, he really is unable to protect himself. He can't defend his territory anymore. He can't swim. He can't eat. He's dying of starvation. Everything in him, it feels incredibly painful, and he can do nothing about it. It's a horrible state to be in.
When we first saw that our crocodiles had pansteatitis, it was just really strange because we could not understand why.
Crocodiles are born survivors that have outlived the dinosaurs. They've evolved a formidable immune system to keep out common disease.
It was quite unusual for us to think of this sort of disease happening at this scale in a national park in the wild.
The mystery killer has been identified, but it's not the end of the investigation.
Yes.
A national task force is established to track down where the disease has come from. This is the first time pansteatitis has been seen in Kruger Park, but further upriver, the disease has killed before.
Pansteatitis was only ever documented in wild crocodiles once, and that was just a couple months before our incident, and that was at Loskop Dam.
This small man-made dam sits over 300 miles outside the park, but it's home to many wild crocodiles. Pollution from a local mine, mixed with sewage, had killed hundreds of fish, providing a tempting meal for passing crocodiles.
The crocodiles just ate a large amount of this rancid fish fat, and that's how they then developed pansteatitis and died.
Most of Loskop's crocodiles were wiped out. Investigators in Kruger have their first clue. Crocs get pansteatitis from feasting on dead fish.
One of the first things we tried to do was establish if there was a fish kill that we might not have heard of.
The team search the gorge for any signs of dead fish. If they can find any evidence, it will be case closed.
Fish killed in these sort of environments are quickly gone, but you might have little telltale signs.
Birds would pull up the fish on land and eat them there, so you would see the bones and the carcasses and the scales even for a while afterwards.
But in a river full of predators, any dead fish may have already disappeared without trace.
We got nothing.
One would expect a fish die-off, and not finding it from the start kind of put us in a little bit of a predicament. Now we had to really investigate further. We had to find something that maybe was more subtle than that.
Crocs are continuing to die. Over 30 are dead, and the pressure is mounting for answers. There are fears the deaths will affect the number of tourists coming to the park and the livelihoods of all who work there. Worse still, losing one of its top predators could take Kruger Park down. Crocodiles help control the numbers of everything below them in the aquatic food chain. If they disappear, large numbers of catfish could rule the river, preying on smaller fish and reducing the varieties of food available to fish-eating birds. No Crocs starts a domino effect that could cause an irreversible change. The park's survival depends on investigators stamping out pansteatitis. In the past, crocodiles are only known to have got the disease from eating dead fish. But with no evidence of a die-off, the team must find a new suspect. Investigators in Kruger Park are tracking down the cause of a killer disease that has wiped out over 30 crocodiles.
When we heard there wasn't a fish die-off, we immediately suspected some sort of pollution.
The Oliphants River passes through many mining, industrial and agricultural areas before flowing through Kruger Park and into Mozambique. Little regulation has made it one of South Africa's most polluted rivers. Could these pollutants have triggered pansteatitis? Willem Engelbrecht lives in Witbank, 300 miles upstream from the crocodile carcasses. It's home to South Africa's largest coal fields and power stations.
Here you got the smell, you can see the dirty water. The water is not even, the color is not even good. The foam is forming on top of the water in the river itself where the water is coming in. That clearly shows you that there's something is wrong with the water coming in. It should not foam, it should not smell. Clean water doesn't foam, doesn't smell.
With a rising human population, dealing with sewage has also become a major problem.
This place is supposed to be cleared out of water for our sewage coming from the town. At the moment, the town is expanding quite a lot, and this one is not even coping at all with the residents we've got at the moment. This water is supposed to be crystal clean, not smelling, no foaming, no hard particles in it, and it's got a lot of it in it. Let me show you where it's going straight into the river. You come over here, you'll see this is the depositing system. Look at the debris on the side. You have a look on the side there, a lot of debris going out of there, going straight through that portal into the river downstream.
This polluted water flows directly into Kruger Park.
You can't stop polluted water coming into the park. You can't create more water. So although we try to conserve this river as best as we can, what we receive is actually comes from outside.
The task force heads to the gorge confident they can identify the pollutants that are killing their crocs.
What we need to do is just take some water samples and take some sediment samples and get it analyzed by some of the labs in South Africa, and then that would have an answer.
They collect samples of water, algae, silt and croc tissue to send away for analysis. Meanwhile, Andrew Deacon, the park's freshwater ecologist, inspects the fish population. Any signs of ill health will quickly confirm if there's something toxic in the water. There are many fish in the gorge, making up the majority of a croc's diet. Although crocs are formidable hunters, able to catch many types of prey, in the steep-sided gorge, large mammals are rarely seen at the water's edge. Andrew's findings are unexpected.
I did my monitoring on fish and so on, and they seem all fine. So that was really very strange to me.
Most fish looked pretty good. They looked quite normal. They looked quite healthy.
Healthy fish usually mean a healthy river. To make sure, samples of fish tissue are examined by fish pathologist David Huxemeyer.
Most of the fish I got livers from and kidneys and the spleens, and those indicated that there was something not right. Generally, the picture I got was one of oxidative stress. These fish were being exposed to some or other oxidant in the water, probably over a prolonged period of time.
There is something nasty in the water. An unknown toxin is making the fish unwell. But they are not dying. Robust crocodiles are dying every day, yet the sensitive fish remain alive. The suspect toxin seems to be causing pansteatitis only in the top predator. Whilst the team await the results from the lab as to which toxin is to blame, investigators turn their attention to a new mystery. Why are the mortalities only happening now? Heavy industrial mining has been leaking waste into the river with little regulation for over 100 years.
What have changed suddenly now? And the only thing that I could think of is the fact that they put in these sluice gates into the Massanger Dam.
Massanger Dam, just 20 miles downstream from the gorge in neighboring country, Mozambique. A wall over 2 miles long and as tall as the Statue of Liberty holds back enough water to fill 1 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. The dam has always been surrounded by controversy. Designed to supply clean water and power to Mozambicans, Kruger Park officials say they were not consulted on its impact.
Since the dam's been established, conservationists on the Kruger side were saying, this is a bad idea. This is going to flood the gorge quite severely.
Although the dam was partially completed in the 70s, a 16-year civil war meant it was left abandoned until just months before the crocodile death and the installation of sluice gates raised water levels by over 65 feet, drowning the gorge. For Kruger, the effects were devastating.
What we saw certainly was quite disturbing. Massive depositing of silt in the gorge. Fine, horrible, sticky mud. It's the kind of mud that smells horrible when you walk into it. You get stuck there, you can't get out. So our immediate suspicions was that the Massanger Dam backflooded into the Kruger Park. The crocodiles started dying. There has to be a significant link between the two events.
But how can these environmental changes be responsible for kickstarting a killer disease? The results from samples sent away for analysis are back in.
In general, the water and sediment samples that were analyzed showed us that though there were a large number of compounds detected, none were above allowable limits.
Investigators are right. The river is polluted with over 1,500 different toxins. But surprisingly, none are at high enough concentrations to kill crocodiles.
These results were certainly not what I wanted to hear, because I was convinced that the people would come back to us and say, it is this chemical or this heavy metal that's the culprit.
The results are a major setback for the investigation. With no evidence of lethal levels of toxins in the water, pollution and Massingier Dam can no longer be suspects. To make things worse, more crocodiles are dying by the day. Over 50 crocs have now succumbed to the disease.
The numbers were just escalating. Every day there would be another couple, sort of 10 a week, and that was really concerning.
Investigators must act quickly if they're to save any surviving crocodiles. But all obvious lines of inquiry have dried up. The focus shifts to containing the disease. Investigators have noticed some disturbing behavior that could explain why it's spreading so rapidly.
We saw a large crocodile feeding on a young crocodile that was affected. So we knew that cannibalism was definitely going on in the gorge.
Crocs normally only eat each other when food is scarce or when overcrowded. But the carcasses floating around in the river are just too tempting a meal. They are feasting on their own dead. Full of affected fats, this meal could cause those remaining healthy crocodiles to get pansteatitis too. And it's not just the crocs that are at risk.
We saw a lot of lions patrolling the river and eating the carcasses, and we were worried that they might get affected.
There is a danger the disease could spread across the park. The task force launches into action. They remove and destroy any carcass they can find.
What we hope by removing all this infected material from the system is that the mortalities would slow down and maybe even stop.
But moving up to 500-pound crocs from an isolated gorge is no easy feat. 60 carcasses are cremated.
It's almost disrespectful somehow. And there's like 10 crocodiles on a pile being burned. And you realize on a population level, this must be catastrophic.
The team fear there may still be dead crocs lurking unseen. They must tempt live crocs away from eating them.
We shot a few hippos in the system, and the crocodiles then got attracted to those hippo carcasses and fed largely on hippos for the next few weeks.
The interventions have an instant effect.
The mortalities did slow down significantly and did stop. And here by September, October, we didn't see any more.
For the first time in 5 months, the park can rest easy. Pansteatitis has disappeared. But with over 170 crocs now dead, there's no peace for the task force. They need to find out where the disease has come from, in case it comes back. The team searches for those crocs still alive, hoping for some new leads.
We decided to start catching crocodiles to tag them, mark them, put on some transmitters, and to collect some samples.
The research will reveal where crocs go to feed. There is now a new theory that crocodiles may be moving out of the gorge. The trigger for the disease could be lying elsewhere. The team need to get close to 500-pound reptiles with the strongest bite of any animal. It's dangerous work. Worse still, it has to happen at night. Investigators in Kruger Park are on a mission to capture crocodiles. Crocs are less cautious at night, which means the team can get closer. But that's if you can find them. A crocodile is well adapted to the water. When it's submerged, only its eyes and snout are exposed.
People said, "You're crazy. Walking along the Kruger Park rivers at night, people are going to get killed."
It can be quite scary, you know. It's one of those things that the crocodiles we're catching, they're large crocs. If that crocodile decided that he was going to take your limb off, he would.
Let it just tire out a bit.
Big or small, one snap from a crocodile could be lethal. Luckily for the team, the muscles that open the jaws, even in healthy crocs, are very weak. A roll of tape can easily keep the lethal mouth of a croc closed. But some crocodiles aren't even putting up a fight.
Some crocodiles were lethargic and listless and not very keen to move. They were very swollen around their tails, around their abdomens. They just didn't look like healthy crocodiles.
Just move it around. That's it.
It's a disturbing find. Pansteatitis hasn't disappeared from the park after all. Some crocs are living with the disease.
All right, one more. Okay, that's it. That's it.
But they will all die in the end.
Pansteatitis can be cured in domestic animals because you can give them continuous and regular injections. In our situation, it is impossible to catch a crocodile on a regular basis.
The team desperately need to find the cause before it's too late. They attach radio transmitters and colored tags to all of the captured crocs to find out where they're going to feed. A year on from the outbreak, winter once again falls on Kruger Park. Pansteatitis has now killed 179 of the gorge's crocodiles. But it's not over. Some devastating news rocks the park. For the second year running, a killer disease is wiping out one of Kruger's top predators.
Same week, almost to the date, as it happened the previous year, we started seeing pansteatitis again.
Crocodiles are once again dying en masse in the gorge.
We knew this is not a once-off. It's certainly a recurring thing that we're going to be stuck with for goodness knows how long.
We hoped we wouldn't have to see it again. We didn't know how many of these outbreaks we could actually have this population survive.
26 more crocodiles have died. Just 2 months later, there's a third large-scale death in the gorge. But it's not crocs. It's fish.
That was a rare occurrence in the sense that it was an observed fish mortality. So nobody could really exclude that mortalities occurred from time to time that were not being recorded.
It's an astonishing find. Could this mean that pansteatitis has been caused by dead fish after all? Just ones that had never been detected at the time of the first outbreak.
What was interesting to me was that it was virtually only African sharp-toothed catfish, and it was very large ones, and they were very, very fat.
A post-mortem of these fish provides a major breakthrough.
Almost all of those fish had pansteatitis lesions that we could confirm.
For the first time, another species is found with pansteatitis. And it's the fish at the top of every CROC's menu.
This lesions that we're seeing in the fish could potentially be something that can kill the fish, if not affect their physiology that make them easier to catch.
The disease will be making swimming difficult. These affected fish are an easy target for passing crocodiles. It's a revelation that gives rise to a groundbreaking theory. Perhaps crocs can get pansteatitis from eating live fish, not just dead ones.
You don't need a large fish kill. All you need is sick fish, which the crocodiles would then target and that way get sick themselves.
The source of rancid fats that give a croc pansteatitis could have been swimming around in the river all along. If so, how are the catfish getting it?
Catfish are actually the first in the food chain to get the condition. So they must eat something or miss something from their diet that creates pansteatitis in them.
Catfish are primarily bottom feeders, combing the river floor with sensitive whiskers in the hunt for small fish or detritus. The team are convinced that the answer lies somewhere on the riverbed. Some previous cases of pansteatitis in fish have been caused by pollutants. But tests have already revealed that toxins in the gorge are at safe levels.
The problem with these tests is it's worked on a single compound.
It might be a series of compounds, all at fairly low, seemingly benign levels, that when you start mixing them together, you all of a sudden get a toxic soup.
Catfish might be consuming a mix of toxins from the riverbed, causing them to get pansteatitis. The finger of blame is once again pointed at Massingir Dam.
The Massingir Dam probably was the trigger that set all of this off.
When the dam wall was actually raised and the gorge was flooded, there was a zone of water that wasn't moving anymore, so sediment was just dropping out.
Clinging onto the sediment are hundreds of toxins pumped into the river from the industrial areas upstream. All are deposited in the slow-moving water of the gorge. The investigation now needs to prove that the catfish are feeding on this sediment before being eaten themselves by crocodiles.
We needed to know what the fish were eating.
A number of fish are opened up and examined. Particular attention is paid to their stomach contents.
These catfish had been feeding on the surface of the clay deposits. There were clay deposits within their stomachs and intestinal system. The fish are absorbing a toxic substance which is initiating the pansteatitis.
It's the evidence the team have been waiting over a year to find. trigger of pansteatitis is a mixture of toxins lurking at the bottom of the gorge. The team pieced together all the evidence to reveal a complex chain of events that is killing Kruger's crocodiles. The raising of Massingier Dam has changed the flow of water in the gorge, resulting in sediments mixed with toxins to be dumped on the riverbed. Hungry catfish consume enough toxins to get pansteatitis. Living with this disease, they become an easy target for passing crocodiles. Feasting on sick fish, the crocs then get the killer disease. But one question remains unanswered. Why have crocodiles died at the same time each year at the onset of winter? Danny Govinder believes these formidable apex predators are simply stressed, and that winter's cold temperatures are just too much for them to handle.
Everyone believes that crocodiles really face no stress, but their entire existence is a stressful one.
Fighting, hunger, and overcrowding are often to blame. But there are 2 times of year when a croc is particularly stressed. One is in the spring, when they start to breed. The other is the start of winter. Crocodiles are highly sensitive to temperature change. Crocodiles bask in the sun for at least 2 hours a day to control their body temperature. But once again, it's the raising of Massingier Dam which may have pushed these crocs over the edge. Crocodiles in Kruger Park are suffering from stress. The flooding caused by a nearby dam has reduced the number of areas in which crocs can bask in the sun.
There's plenty of sun available. This is Africa. But in the gorge environment, with inundation and flooding of a large number of those sandbanks, the amount of sandbanks available for thermoregulation is reduced.
With fewer sandbanks to bask on, crocs shut themselves down to conserve precious energy. Fat supplies are used to generate heat, but not when they've turned rubbery. Pansteatitis, Massingier Dam, and a drop in temperature are a killer combination.
They've got active inflammation in their body and they can kind of cope with it. They're coping in the summer season. But come the winter, where there's this added stress of temperature, they really can't manage anymore.
Investigators have unraveled the mystery of Kruger's dying crocs. But there is little they can do to prevent more deaths. There's no feasible way to cure them.
As sad and depressing as it may sound, I do not think the crocodiles in this gorge have got much of a future. We're going to lose, I think, most of the crocodiles from this system. We're going to just see the population spiraling downwards slowly over the next couple of decades.
Their only hope lies with the government, who are planning major changes in how South Africa's rivers are managed. Scientific studies reveal that less pollution and fewer dams will ease many environmental problems. But if the rate of human population and economic development stays the same, South Africa will run out of clean, fresh water. The death of over 200 crocs is a stark wake-up call. And it's not just crocs that are at risk.
We are seriously concerned about the villagers here because, I mean, the obvious thing about a crocodile dying is that it's the top predator dying. The other top predator in the system is humans. They are really reliant on the fish protein here. They eat the entire fish. They are utilizing all parts of it, so parts that could potentially accumulate toxin as well. So very, very similar to the crocodiles. You're not going to find a person really sick, but you're going to get more long-term effects, some headaches or belly pain or some sort of liver pain or enlargements, certain problems with ladies falling pregnant or cancer incidents. So what's happening now, we might only see in this population in 5 or 10 years' time, and then it's going to be very hard to ascribe it to what happened, when the crocodiles died.
For the park's authorities, their work must continue. Two years on from the first outbreak, the team returned to the gorge. Once again, they are faced with death.
Ja, man. This is what we've been seeing in the last couple of years. Onset of winter, crocodile starts dying.
To reduce the suffering, rangers are often forced to take drastic action.
There's no way that this croc was going to survive. He would have maybe lasted another week or two and died a slow, painful death. You get to a stage where you almost do not want to come back here because you know what you're going to see is going to be upsetting. But unfortunately, that's not a luxury we have. We have to continue doing this work.
The future of Kruger's crocs lies in the hands of all who use South Africa's water.
We have damaged and destroyed and changed our rivers so much that even something that has been designed to survive this is dying.
These things have been here for 240 million years, and we have, in 2.5 years, almost wiped them out in this river system. Yeah, it saddens me. It absolutely saddens me to see.